I would imagine most of you have heard the story I'm going to remind you of. It's an old one about a young man who enthusiastically joined the monastery. He was so excited and enthusiastic about this. He started his experience in the monastery with the vow of silence, something I could never do. Phyllis, Dr. Riney here, loves those little retreats where you don't talk for 3 days. No, not for me. This solemn vow meant that the monk could only speak 2 words a year. And those 2 words were reserved for his annual evaluation with the abbot. The first year passed, the abbot asked the monk how he was doing. And without hesitation, the monk replied, "Food bad." Another year passed, the abbot again asked the monk how he was doing. The monk replied, "Bed hard." When asked for an evaluation the 3rd year, the young monk said, "I quit." "Well," said the abbot, "I'm not surprised at all. All you've done since you've come here is complain, complain, complain." Well, I want to talk to you today about the opposite of complaining, and that would be gratitude, a heart and a life that is thankful. Cicero once said, quote, "Gratitude is not only the greatest of all virtues, it is the parent of all the others." But get this, I believe that. At the same time, though, how often do you see gratitude, thankfulness mentioned as studies of psychology or recommendation? Not very often. Hardly at all, I would think. And it's also ignored as a faith discipline, spiritual discipline, Phyllis. She's going to be teaching anyway. But it's not really listed as one of our disciplines, that most of us hear about, or we would rather fast than be thankful, right? No. But that one didn't mention that much either, the fasting. But thankfulness, a lifestyle of gratitude, just isn't something we hear about. Gratitude is a way of life. It is a way of thinking, a way of thinking that many believe, including myself, that if we would make it a way of lifestyle, we would be transformed, as Romans 12:2 says. It is the mantra for our discipleship pathway process. We are transformed not by accident or just because that's the way we roll. No, we are transformed by the literal renewing of our mind, renewing of the way we think. What we believe is beneficial to our attention and our action. So if we would have a lifestyle of gratitude, make that decision by the renewing of our mind, decide to do that, it would benefit us greatly. Paul put it this way in Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Whatever is true, honorable, just, pure, cleansing, and commendable. If there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise. Put the word gratitude, our thankfulness. Think on these things. We're not born grateful. How many of y'all have seen a baby come out laughing? Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. That dude is ticked off from day one. Right? I mean, we slap them just to start with for being ticked off. I mean, it just doesn't happen. It does not come naturally. It is not a natural, it's a learned behavior. And a behavior, it is a way of thinking that we either choose to be engaged in at the moment or not. It's a decision, a way of life. Here's what I want you to do this morning. I want you to take this one statement seriously. I want you to think about what you are thinking about. As God's people, for goodness sake, we need to think about what we have on our mind, what we are thinking about. If I asked you right now, what are you thinking about? I wonder when Jerry's going to get finished, or what am I going to do when I get home? Man, the garage needs to be cleaned out, but it's awful hot. I did that this weekend, by the way. Who are the people who hurt me in my life? You know, what? Food bad, bed hard, I quit. What are you thinking about? Think about what you are thinking about over and over again. When you smile, stretch, put on Jesus, think about, and then some. Part of that and then some could be, think about what you're thinking about. Paul says we should think on these things. The true, the honorable, the just, the pure, the pleasing, the commendable. Things that are anything that is worthy of our praise. To set your mind on those things. And I doubt you're much different from me. I've got to intentionally do that. Carrie calls me half full. In fact, that's my name in most of the time. Hey, half full. You know, and it's because I got so much dang stuff over here to worry about. I'm telling you, I was a happy camper until we started all this, you know. But, you know, I have to constantly get my mind, you know, I have to renew my mind or I will be drugged down into issues. The great British preacher John Henry Jowett, any of y'all ever heard of him? Jowett? Never heard of him. Said, but I've heard of him now, and he's got a great statement, quote, "Gratitude is a vaccine, an antitoxin, and an antiseptic. It's a vaccine to prevent the invasion of a disgruntled, discouraged spirit." If you start the day in gratitude, it's probably going to last you at least till lunch, right? It works. It is an antitoxin to destroy the poisons of cynicism and criticalness. It is an antiseptic to soothe and heal the most troubled spirit. Fill your minds. By the renewing of your mind, you can be transformed. Fill your mind with the best, not the worst, the beautiful, not the ugly, the things of praise, not the things of curse. Cultivate that. Work it. And it will transform your life. The best way I know to do that is count your many blessings, name them one by one, right? And I've started doing it. I carry a card around just because I'm insane and can't remember things. But I suggest what I'm starting to do now is list at least 3 things I'm thankful for at the beginning of the day. And then on the other side, I list 3 things that irritate the heck out of me. No, I'm trying to be disciplined on this, that I'm thankful for, that are different than the front 3 at the end of the day. And you know what? Usually if you have a mind for it, you can pick up on some things during the day, right, that you're thankful for. And it does help. It helps tremendously. So the best way I know is to be very intentional about it. There is an enormous amount of information on this on the internet, in books. You go find it. But all of them are going to suggest to you journal. This is as far as I get on journaling, okay? And I keep my cards. They confuse me later because 2 days pass. I can't, they don't make sense anymore. But journal. Write it down. Be intentional. Journaling makes you do that. If you don't, you're just going to try to be contemplative about it. And most of you guys aren't even going to give thanks at lunch this afternoon, right? But we need to be intentional and disciplined about this. A man was choking on a bone, and immediately he called the doctor, who removed the bone from his throat. The victim asked, so Doc, what do I owe you? And the doctor replied, how about the amount that you were ready to pay me when the bone was stuck in your throat? Right? We so easily forget, don't we? Y'all remember about 8, I think it was 8 at least weeks, and it was after the first week. It's been 9 weeks for me. I was crowing about, I have no pain, I have no pain. It didn't affect y'all at all. And I didn't get any letters, no congratulations, nothing. But I was so excited because for at least 10 years I have been in an immense amount of pain. And the main thing I walk around with and have told everybody I know about, I am trying to remember what it was like to have that pain, because now I'm bogged down in other kinds of pain. People who irritate me, garages that need to be cleaned, money that needs to be spent. I'm on this pill that gives me a headache. We so easily forget about how miserable we were, even when God heals us, right? And we're going to find something to be miserable about. It's just the way people are. I look at the scripture that we have this morning, and I wonder, 10 people were healed of leprosy. You know why they had to go to the priest? Because you couldn't even be around them. You couldn't touch them. They had to go, get permission to even be talked to or anything. And Jesus told them, go do that. When they did that, they were healed, all 10 of them. Only one of them came back and said, thank you. Why in the world? Was it because those other guys were too busy? I doubt it. What was it, because they were too focused, self-focused? That's probably more like it. You know what I think it was? I really believe, it's hard to believe, but they found a predictable, comfortable life as a leper. They begged. They found a way to survive. They were very comfortable in that. It was miserable, of course, but they found some comfort in their misery. Jesus comes along and zaps them, and now they're good looking, no sores, and they're going to have to go back to that family they're really ticked off for now for kicking them out and despising them all these years. Now they're probably going to have to get a job or something. Look what you've done to us, Jesus. We were fine. I think they forget. I think we can find a way to be miserable even when Jesus takes leprosy or something like that away from us. A neighborhood library offered a community competition for the best painting symbolizing peace. Let's see, Bill, where is he? I wonder what kind of painting Bill would paint to symbolize peace. Well, the award-winning artwork would be prominently displayed in the library. There were a lot of entries, and all of the entries came in and they were judged, and it was narrowed down to 2. And the judgment had to take place at this point. One of the paintings featured, and I've got one like this in my house, in my little study area, my play area really, and it is a majestic lake, as smooth as ice, just calm, so calm and serene. The mountains in the background are reflected perfectly in the shimmer of that lake. There are flowers around the outside edges of the lake, wildflowers, and there's deer set off in the back. Just this wonderful. I have one like it, and I just go sit in front of it. It's just a wonderful, peaceful view. The other picture that was entered, it's a terrible storm. And winds are blowing, and trees are bending, and debris is flying through the air. The sky is dark, and there's not a person in sight. But there on one limb, a little offset, a tree being bent by the wind, on one limb is a bird. And to the person observing this, that bird is singing. In the midst of all that, this one lone bird singing. Who do you think won that contest? The singing bird. The singing bird. Peace is not, folks, the absence of conflict. Jerry's a half full, whether we're doing a building or not, right, Phyllis? You've known me 100 years, right? I'm just that way. I've got to take this seriously myself. I'm preaching to me today. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the consolation of heart in the midst of the storms. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm not afraid. I fear no evil. Why? Because God is with me. We don't approach death, the darkness, the storm, the valley, as those without faith. It doesn't mean we're not going to worry, that we're not going to be anxious, but we got a different kind of worry and anxious. We know God will take care of us, right? There's a difference. In Matthew 6, Jesus is clearly telling us that we need to cut back. And that's that scripture that, look at the birds of the air, how they neither toil nor reap. Look at the flowers, how God adorns them. Surely then God is going to take care of you. And that scripture is telling us clearly again that we need to cut back on the worry and fear infiltrating our lives. And to do that, I'm telling you today, it's cart before the horse. You've got to put the thankfulness, the gratitude before it. You've got to begin and end that way. Philippians 4:6 is saying the same thing. Do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Pour your heart out to Him. But be thankful. Be thankful. There was a district superintendent. I was asking Lawrence, he was here, and the last time I shared the message, and I said, didn't you love being a district superintendent? I certainly did. I just loved, and I'd never miss church because I loved going to churches, either in my district or even another district. As soon as I'd walk in, boy, people, the district superintendent's here. You could just see the preacher shaking, and he'd eventually come over and ask you, have I done something? Is there any reason for you to be here before I start? No, I'm just worshiping, But it was fun. It was fun. A district superintendent preached a 30-minute sermon in one of his inner city churches on the subject of gratitude. And he concluded the sermon by saying, and remember, however small the gift, always be grateful to the Lord. And then the offering followed the sermon, and when no one could find the offering plates, that was convenient, the district superintendent offered his hat for the offering, for the collection. The hat was passed, but when it came back, the good reverend, he shook it and carefully, he tipped it over cautiously and discovered that it came back empty. And the congregation braced themselves for the response. But the superintendent turned to the altar, raised his hand, holding the empty hat in the air, and he prayed, I thank thee, gracious God, that in your good mercy my hat has been returned to me. In the stress and the struggle of life, some of us, I bet all of us, have lost our hat. Have we not? we've lost our hat. We may have lost our hope for tomorrow, our confidence for today. I want you to leave this place and commit yourself to think about what you are thinking about. And to realize that this wonderful, basic, proven benefit to your life is not going to come naturally. I suggest you journal. Just carry a little card around. It's helped. I've been doing it for a week. It's wonderful. Can you do that? You can, but will you do it? That's the question. Is there a song in your heart that the world never gave? Is there a peace that the world cannot take away? Here's a lesson for us to leave with today, this morning. The key to worrying less is to give thanks more. Amen. Let's sing.